What's happening, everybody? I'm back. It's me, your resident supervillain, Mr. J. Washington, and I'm here with my long overdue review for Black AF on Netflix. And if you have not seen the series yet, come back, because it kind of is going to be spoilers about it. Now, the reason this is long overdue is because I've really been sitting up thinking and debating, did I want to actually review this? For those who don't know, the show is created by Kenya Barris, the man responsible for Blackish, Grownish, Mixedish, and also with the help of the production team that brought you Modern Family and whatnot. And that's first and foremost what this series gives you. It gives you the feel of Blackish with the feel of Modern Family mixed in together. And I was hesitant because there has been a lot of division, if you will, amongst the Black community about this. Some of the division is for the dumbest things in the world. Like, for instance, people saying Rashida Jones isn't Black enough to be in this. But first of all, her name is Rashida Jones. That's the blackest name I can think of off the top of my head for a Black woman. Her father is legendary music producer Quincy Jones. She's fine. I think we got to stop that, if your person is mixed, that they're not Black enough to speak to Black people's experience, when in all actuality they do experience the same thing. Some light-skinned Blacks have had it better. They'll tell you that. They've had it easier, not better, easier in some situations, but not all. They're still considered Black. And I think that being an argument for me was one of the dumbest ones. I watched this whole thing, and when I started watching it, I was like, okay, this is just like Blackish. But then again, I'm like, it's Kenya Barris. Of course it's going to be like the shows he's made. So that wasn't an issue for me. Then I started watching and I was like, yo, Kenya's not good at acting. But then I had to remember, Kenya Barris is not an actor. I think that's one thing in particular a lot of us keep forgetting, who may have feelings about this one way or another. Kenya Barris is not an actor. He is a writer. He is a showrunner. He is a creator, a producer. He is not an actor. He is not like myself and many others going out to be on his shows. So for him acting in front of the camera is something different. He's even said it numerous times. He's more comfortable behind the camera. So for that, I give the benefit of the doubt. I understand now what the show is supposed to try to show you is Kenya's eyes and his perspective of his family and how he goes through things. And one of the things that a lot of people I know, Black people I know, that had an issue with was every episode being something because of slavery. It was a running joke, and I get it. And I do see where some people can say that it's overkill. I do see that. But again, it was the running joke. There are a lot of parts that a lot of people may be upset about, but I don't understand why. Kenya Barris is a man who came from who's from the block. You know what I'm saying? I think he's from Compton or Inglewood. He's from the block, and he came up. He got money now. He got dough. He's filthy rich. So he's going to do things and have things that shows he's filthy rich because now he can afford them, which a lot of us may say it's bragging. A lot of us may say it's unnecessary, but let's just be realistic. A lot of us have to be honest with ourselves and say, if I had the type of money that Kenya Barris has, wouldn't I spend it on some shit that most people wouldn't think I need? Absolutely. If I had the money that Kenya Barris has and I could afford to take my family on a trip, on a vacation to Fiji, why would I not take them on a private jet because I can afford it? Then rent out a private island because I can afford it? Like, I would do that. A lot of people may say, well, that's just wasteful of your money. Some people have the philosophy of, you can't take it with you when you die. You spend it. And also, in those situations, you're spending it on your most loved ones, your family. I understand there are a lot of things where it's like we don't get the feeling we thought we were going to get. A lot of people thought we were directly going to get Blackish. And no, you weren't going to get Blackish because there's a show for that called Blackish. You weren't gonna get Modern Family because there's a show called Modern Family. You weren't gonna get Curb Your Enthusiasm because there's a show called Curb Your Enthusiasm. And I think that a lot of us have to discern what the differences are in the shows. I know some people are thinking like, yo, Jay, didn't you really not like this? I'm like, I got it. And like I said, the biggest thing I disliked for me was Kenya Barris's performance. But also I remember, again, Kenya Barris is not an actor. So I don't have to hold him to that regards of my peers, as I would call them. Anyone that I'm able to be across from in a scene or potentially or watching TV and things like that. Those are my peers and my colleagues. And Kenya Barris is the person who I would answer to on a set, who would write the words I would speak. So that is a different thing. I don't see him in that light as a person on screen. I get it. I just don't understand. Now, one of the biggest things he did in this that actually sparked something for me was when he made the call to all the directors to, I think it was Tim Young. I forgot everybody who called. I know he called Issa Rae, Ava DuVernay, Lena Waithe. I can't remember the other. It's off the tip of my tongue, and I apologize if I forget right now. But he called them and he talked about us being able to criticize our own work because he went and saw a film that he didn't like and he didn't want to say it for the fear of he'd look like a hater. And as much as we can say that's quote unquote BS, it's not. A lot of people were real hesitant on me. People who I know were like, are you sure you want to do the review for Black AF because you have auditioned for roles for Blackish? You have connections to potentially be on the show. Do you think this could burn it? I was like, no, because I'm not just gonna shit this. Now, I know some people will go back and say, well, yo, you watched The Fall from Grace and you let Tyler Perry shit have it. And that's a different story because that movie was unilaterally bad. And I've also had a personal feeling about the way Tyler Perry does his things and, with the non-union rules and how his writer's room is and how he's his writer's room and he won't accept criticism in a sense and he won't take all that. But then he mentioned that in a sense in the episode in which I was going to talk about. So after Kenya had the conference call with the 5 directors, and I think it was Malcolm Lee he was talking to. Yeah, it was Malcolm Lee. And, talking about being able to critique stuff. But then he went and spoke with Tyler Perry. And for as much criticism, as much disdain as I give the works of Tyler Perry, he made a great point. He said that I make my stuff for my people. I don't care what critics, I don't care what any other actors, I don't care what anybody has to say. I make my stuff for my people come support it, my people love it. Critics can hate it, Rotten Tomatoes can hate it, pundits and everybody else can hate it, but when it comes out in the movie theater, it comes number 1 at the box office, which is absolutely true. We may have said, and I say we as a collective, that, and this is just not even film reviewers, critics, pundits, it's just people in general, we as a collective may have said that Tyler Perry's run as Madea had gotten stale and redundant. But guess what? Tyler Perry's loyal fan base has proven to them it had not gotten stale and redundant because, again, it's coming in at number 1 every time. And he was like, basically, fuck what they got to say. Do you. And for all the shit I've given him through his works and, my personal opinions of it, it's not going to matter to him because he's still going to do him. And at the end of the day, that's what Kenya Barris is. But again, when it goes back to the show, the relationship, the father dealing with the daughter who has a boyfriend from college and he really doesn't like him, because that's still his baby girl. And, there are people who are going to go, oh man, this is just misogyny and a patriarchy of men trying to oppress women's bodies as a father trying to oppress his daughters. But that's not the case. There is a protective nature that all men have over their children, not just their daughters, but their sons. And I say this as a father of a son and a daughter. I have a 16-year-old son and a 6-year-old daughter. I'm protective of hell of them because they are my light. You see the relationship with Rashida Jones, who plays his wife, Joya, and they bump heads at a lot of things because, of course, they're balancing. Kenya has his career always working, and Joya had her career as a lawyer and, a mother of 6, and now she wants to be able to be back into her career. She doesn't want to feel completely just as a mom. She wants to have her own identity, and I understand that because my daughter's mother and I have had that discussion. She wants her own identity. She wants to be not just a mom, and I say that's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with that. A lot of things I think we missed because we were too busy trying to find things to hate. I think that this show was never going to be perfect in anyone's eyes. Never. Because, again, some people have a way they feel about grownish and mixedish and blackish. There's just a thing about that. But also, you got to remember this. The man was finally able to do a show that he wanted to do. They had pulled an episode of Blackish because I forgot what exactly was the controversial issue, but please forgive me. But they pulled it. And you had that. And so now he's given free reign to create what he wants to create on Netflix after Netflix backed the truck up for him. Like, yo, what can you say? Netflix has given carte blanche to creators who they know can create and produce something for them. No matter how we feel about this show at the end of the day, whether we love it or hate it, whether we're mad, upset, or how we want to feel, it is lucrative for them, which at the end of the day is what matters. And at the end of the day, whether we liked it or hated it, guess what we did? We watched it. Netflix don't give a shit about how many of us disliked it. Netflix give a shit about how many of us spent almost 8 hours in total, I think about 8 hours, close to 8 hours in total, watching this whole series, this season. That's what they care about. Because guess what? That shows you have subscribers. People hate watch things all the time. And at the end of the day, you're helping that product out. But when I say how I felt about this, I was a little torn. You know, there are, again, I go back to the Kenya Barris is not an actor. So while I put all that pressure on what I thought I was going to see, it doesn't matter. Then another thing, people started going off, why does he have white writers in his room? Yo, can y'all chill with that? I understand. I full-heartedly understand that a white person cannot live a black experience, no matter how ingrained to a black person they've been around, married to, etc., etc. They cannot understand that on a personal, deep level. They can empathize with it and whatnot, but they can't directly go through it. I get it. But also, these are creative writers, and it's a writer's room. These are ideas floating around, and these are bounced off one another to come together to create what's called a script. And then you have several of these scripts that come together to make a show or a movie. I think we got to stop that. Just because we say something is black does not mean every single part of it, an aspect, has to be loaded with black people. I know we need to support our own, build our own, uplift our own, invest in our own, and, strengthen our own. I am all for that. But at the same time, you understand there are parts that maybe you just don't know anyone qualified to do. And just because someone knows someone qualified to do it doesn't mean you and them will vibe. So that means if I don't have a good vibe and a rapport with you, do I still have to work with you? No, because that never works out in the end. Never works out. Tyler Perry, go back to him, is a different story. He said he showed a video on Instagram where he wrote the seasons for like all 6, 7 of his shows. He wrote them all. And of course, people got mad and upset. Was like, yo, there are so many writers you could have hired. There's so many talented black men and women who are looking for TV writer jobs that you could have given those to, and you being selfish. And to an extent, I agree with that. I definitely do believe he could have given them a job. But also, what that does is it puts the onus solely on him. Solely on him. If we watch a show and we think the dialogue is terrible, the storyline is awful, the character development is shit, then we know it's for Tyler Perry because he did it. But guess what? At the end of the day, people are still watching it. Why? Because he still has shows that are running. BET, which is owned by Viacom now, is not a black entity anymore, is playing Sisters, The Oval, and a couple other shows of his. So he's doing something right. No matter how I personally feel or anyone else may feel, he is doing something right. But again, when it comes to Kenya Barris in this show, I don't know what we all were expecting. I get when you hear the term black AF, black as fuck, you thinking a whole different thing like, yo, shit gonna get wild, shit gonna get crazy, shit gonna get almost niggerish. I know you think that to an extent. But also you have to think, I'm not presenting this just for the black culture. I'm trying to show you a perspective that I have, that I want to show the world how I deal with it. Kenya having a white assistant and how he basically bullshits and belittles his assistant, but he still calls him family, but then he still treats him like shit. These are things that people in that power and position do. And if he wrote this that way to show that how he is, he's willing to be open with us. Now I understand, again, we don't have to accept it. We don't have to embrace it. We don't have to love it. I get it, but you got to respect it. And why I say you got to respect it? Because he is getting an opportunity that a lot of us wish we had. If he would have never had a hit successful show such as Blackish, there would be no Black AF because no network would trust him. You couldn't go from Blackish to Grownish and then Mixedish, and think, oh man, I don't think this dude is successful. When one of the biggest networks in the world, ABC, has invested in what your ideas are thoroughly and fully invested in them. Netflix invested in him the same way. Will there be a season 2? We don't know. Was this a one-off? Possibly. Was it something I loved? No. Was it something I liked? Yes. I love the cameos that he had. I love people who we would see as actors who we know playing characters. So while it's supposed to have this documentary feel, it's still a show. And yes, I know a lot of people have said, again, I go back to it, I wish Kenya would have cast someone else as an actor to play himself. But you probably wouldn't got the feel you wanted if you're Kenya Barris by having someone else portray you. So why not try to do it yourself? You know who you are, how you are, so you're not going to try to come off any other way. You're going to come off as who you are. And that's what he did. Again, for us, he's not an actor, so it doesn't really, we can't really digest it fully, if you will. Again, I get it. I had people in comments like, yo, you got to review Black AF because it's terrible as shit. I've had people hit me up on DMs like, yo, you going to do it? A couple of my Facebook friends like, yo, you should talk about this shit. And I'm like, yo, I'm going to do it, but I have to make sure if I do it, I'm doing it right. And again, also, I forgot to say this at the beginning. Let it be known that I'm not saying what I say and how I say it just to potentially get on a show. I've never done that. Never done it. Never will. I am not saying what I say just on the offshoot chance that someone I know who knows somebody who's connected to Kenya be like, yo, this dude does a lot of this and he has a reach and a following and he said this. So, yo, well, he be like, what else did he do? He act. Okay, well, put him on my blacklist. I'm not doing that for this. I'm doing it the way I am because I wanted to make sure I conveyed this the best way I could without sounding ridiculous. I had to put everything in perspective. Everything. I'm not one of those people who look at a family on TV and be like, yo, them kids ain't the same complexion. I don't do all that. Again, to say Rashida Jones is not black enough for this, that's a dumbass argument. Stop trying to label what we can blackness. One of my best friends, Bobby Hill, is mixed. And I would always bullshit with Bobby at times, and he knows it. But I always respect his blackness because he knows what he goes through. I've seen what he's gone through. He is just as much a black man as he is half white. I will never take that away from him. So for people to have that argument about Rashida Jones, it's quite asinine, if you ask me. Do I recommend you watch it if you haven't watched it? Give it a chance. If you ain't liked it, that's totally your opinion. And you're totally allowed to have that. You're totally allowed to have that perspective that, yo, this is not for you, and nobody can take that from you. But for me, I got it. I wished a few things were different. But I think a lot of my perspective changed the episode where he talked to Tyler Perry. That changed everything for me. But nonetheless, I want to know what you think in the comments below, all right? So go ahead and like, subscribe, click on the notification bell, man, so you find out when I'm dropping more videos. Check out some of the other things I've done on here. I do a Harley Quinn review for the DC Universe show every week. I reviewed Stargirl. I dropped my episodes of the Mad Titan podcast, the podcast I do that gets you caught up on everything happening in the Marvel and DC live action and cinematic universe. It is Barbershop Talk for Nerds. I tell you, come on in the convo, all right? I do that. I do so much more on the channel, so check that out here. Also, follow me on Twitter and Instagram. More so Instagram. I'm trying to build up my IG numbers. Instagram.com/Mr. J Washington. Twitter's the same thing. Join my Supervillain Squad on Patreon. Patreon.com/Mr. J Washington. There's been a lot of talk about the Avengers and what would have happened with certain characters. I'm going to do a Patreon exclusive episode about that. So you might want to go ahead and join for that. And check out Blurs in the Hood. Yo, with me and my boy Winston A. Marshall. We do it live every Tuesday p.m. on the Blurs in the Hood channel. YouTube.com/BLERDS. The letter NTHEHOOD. Listen, I'll holler at y'all later. Thank you for sticking with this and riding with your boy. All right, y'all take care. I'm out of here. Bye.